Asbestos has not been banned in the United States. I think a lot of people tend to think, I've seen commercials about asbestos all over TV. I know how dangerous it is. They tend to think, wow, the US government must have banned this stuff. Unfortunately, the US government is not so forward-thinking in that. It actually exists in some things. It's not quite as highly used as it was 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. We use a lot less of it now, but it still exists, and they're still producing asbestos products. Things like floor tiles have it. In Europe, it's been banned, not in the United States. There's lots of different types of mesothelioma financial assistance. I think the one that people tend to think of the first is the legal part, because you see commercials on TV for it all the time. And definitely there's legal options. You can go with trust funds or traditional lawsuits, but there's other things as well. People might not realize that there's Social Security benefits that are available through a Compassionate Allowance Program, which actually makes the benefits process go faster. There's veterans benefits, obviously. You can get all types of veterans benefits, not just to offset your medical expenses, but also things like home health care, things for your spouse. And then there's other types of things as well that people don't necessarily think about, like travel discounts, lodging discounts, and even some hospitals might have some bonuses out there for people that have mesothelioma, things like to offset the costs of electricity or your phone bill while you're in the hospital. So there's all different types of options, and at asbestos.com we can walk you through those. Mesothelioma trust funds are trust funds that were set up by bankrupt companies that once used asbestos products, but have since declared bankruptcy. They're still probably operating companies, but they declared bankruptcy and went through the bankruptcy process. Basically, to make a long story short, about 20, 30 years ago when it started coming out that asbestos was so dangerous, the companies that manufactured products that had a lot of asbestos in them said, hey, look, we're gonna get sued by a lot of people. It's potentially a big financial risk. So they went to the courts and said, hey, look, can we file for bankruptcy? And the court said, sure, you can file for bankruptcy, but we don't want you to leave the people that have been made sick as a result of your products with no options. So we're gonna require you to fund a trust. So if somebody down the road gets sick, they can tap into that trust and get the compensation they need. And that's really what the asbestos bankruptcy trusts are for. You file a mesothelioma lawsuit or claim, first and foremost, by contacting a mesothelioma specialist attorney. I think a lot of people might be tempted to do this kind of thing on their own. Certainly it's possible to do it on your own. It's just very, very complex and time consuming. And people would be leaving a lot of money on the table if they try to do it by themselves. Contact the specialist. What they're gonna do is they're gonna ask you about how you were exposed. They're gonna try to get into your work history. What kind of products did you work around? What kind of professions were you in? What kind of work sites were you at? They're gonna take all of that information, determine how you were probably exposed to asbestos, and then they're gonna proceed with a claim. And a claim can be done in two ways. From a legal standpoint, first you can go through a trust fund, which are funds set up by bankrupt companies to try to compensate victims of asbestos exposure. And then secondly, there's traditional lawsuits, where you go to court, sometimes you take a deposition, and you do it the traditional way, which is kind of like what people see on TV if you look at Law and Order or those types of things. Most times when it comes to asbestos lawsuits, the traditional types, they're just settled. You're not actually going to court, but the best way to do it is clearly by contacting an attorney. You definitely want to find a lawyer that specializes in mesothelioma for one particular reason, and that's because they know all about this. Mesothelioma is a very, very specialized type of law. There's not many people out there that come down with mesothelioma, so there aren't that many lawsuits out there for mesothelioma. So you want to go somebody that knows a lot about it. It's the same thing as if you went to a doctor. You wouldn't go to a brain surgeon if you had a lung issue. If you went to a lawyer who didn't deal with a lot of mesothelioma, they're not going to know what type of products that you might have been exposed to, what type of work sites that you might be able to collect from. So you definitely want to go to somebody who knows a lot about it. They're going to be able to get you the most money. A patient advocate at asbestos.com can help people in a lot of different ways. They're not just there to help you understand the nature of the medical part of a mesothelioma diagnosis. They're also there to help you understand the financial assistance options that are available to you. Those can be pretty significant. It can be travel discounts, lodging discounts, It can be VA benefits, it can be Social Security disability benefits, it can be legal options, which can either come in the form of trust funds or traditional lawsuits. They can also help you with emotional support options. We run a support group that's specifically designed for people with mesothelioma. I don't know if there's any other organizations in the country that run a mesothelioma-specific support group. So again, emotional support, medical information, and financial information is all available, in addition to a large and specific packet of information in terms of literature that we send out to people that have been diagnosed.